Let's take bets to see where he is. I'm going Cancun?
Oh, no, they wouldn't let him in. Not gay enough.
Mykonos.
Too gay.
Ho Maluiha.
Oh, that's a great place. Wow, this is going to be a fun show.
Or Kiki?
Lots of good stuff on the news. I've never been in this anchor seat before, and I'm going to take my cues from Faye Watt. So keep the energy up, girls.
Let's do it.
4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It is 8 p.m. Thursday, June 24th, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the Happening Out television network, Hotspots magazine, and We Meg Events. Hotspots is celebrating 35 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. Merge, we bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our LGBTQ plus community.
This evening, we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet. I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, stepping in for the one and only Al Ferguson. I'm Dr. Tai Houser. Let's welcome anchors Steve Rothaus. He's a pioneering journalist that covered LGBTQ issues at the Miami Herald for more than 2 decades, beginning in 1985, and came out at work 2 years later. He served as a national board member of NLGJA, the Association of LGBT Journalists, and founded the association's newsroom outreach project, visiting newspapers, television stations, and colleges to discuss LGBTQ news coverage and workplace issues. He's a GLAAD Media Award winner for Outstanding Newspaper Columnist and known as an LGBT pioneer in mainstream journalism, according to Columbia Journalism Review. Good evening, Steve.
Ty, thank you very much. Let's welcome anchor Lynare Robbins, director of the Global Chamber Miami. She serves on the board of directors for the United Nations Association, Care Resource, and the LGBTQ Tourism Committee for the GMCVB. Good evening, Lynare.
Good evening, thank you. Glad to be here. Let's welcome Dr. Nick Metheny. Nick Metheny, assistant professor at the University of Miami School of Nursing and Health Studies. His research focuses on preventing domestic violence and its negative health implications in LGBTQ plus populations globally. Good evening, Nick.
Thanks, Lynare. It's great to be here. Let's welcome guest anchor Dan Rios. Dan is the director of LGBTQ marketing for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for Greater Miami and the beaches, joining their marketing and tourism division in 2002. He has dedicated over 25 years to marketing and communication design, and prior to joining the GMCVB, Dan was an art director at Morgan Stanley. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you so much. Great to be back. And by the way, I was 20 when I started there. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the Queer News headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points for the Queer News for today, Thursday, June 24th.
Let's queer up entertainment. Marsha. But what about RuPaul? Dragging the Classics, the Brady Bunch, will star iconic cross-dressing queens crossing over into the world of classic 1970s sitcom, using new technology to transport the cast into the original Brady Bunch house. The Drag Race alums set to appear include All-Stars 5 winner Shea Coulee as Marsha Brady, Bianca Del Rio, my girl, as Carol Brady, Ben De La Creme stepping out of drag to play Greg Brady, All-Star 6 contestant Kylie Sonique Love as Jan Brady. Season 13's Candy Muse as Cindy Brady, and Season 11, Miss Congeniality, Nina West as Alice. Judges RuPaul, who had a role in the 1995 Brady Bunch movie satire, and Michelle Visage will co-star as new characters named The Wig Attendant and Helen, respectively. Brady Bunch? Marsha?
I think it's great, honestly. They could make a whole series out of this, you know? They could do like Gilligan's Island. They could do like a lesbian one for Leave It to Beaver. I think they could do a lot of cool ones.
Yes, the drag boat.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, it's also interesting that they're bringing back, you know, many of the original cast members also. So everyone's going to be coming back, all of the Brady kids except for the original Marsha. Maureen McCormick is not scheduled to be on this program. I don't know why.
Is she the Samantha of this particular show?
Well, you know, there's no explanation, but she seems to be practically begging to be on this show because she has tweeted last week, she tweeted, Happy Pride, everyone, love is love. And just today, Marsha Brady, she tweeted, Free Britney. So she absolutely wants to be on this program.
She wants to be.
Absolutely.
She wants to be there. Wow. Well, I can't wait to see how this all pans out. I watched the Brady Bunch in reruns, of course. I'm not as old as people who saw it live. And I will look forward to how this goes down.
Next, let's queer up social media. A gay waiter was humiliated and stiffed by Christian customers. Then TikTok stepped in. Watch this.
As a general life rule, I try not to make videos when I am angry. But if you can't tell by my chest right now, I'm fuming. So I've worked in restaurants for the last 15 years. And my best friend just shared with me today that a coworker of hers who is openly gay was twice today tipped $0, and his $0 tip was accompanied by a church pamphlet. And I want to say, I don't care who your God is. If you do that, you're an asshole. And you can justify it however you want, but it's not in your book. I digress. I have had the privilege of tipping quite a few people in the past 6 to 8 months. And I thank you so much for trusting me with your money and giving me the privilege to do that. But if you feel compelled, I'm not going to record it this time. I'm not going to share it if he's not comfortable with it. But I would love it if you would just fill the fuck out of my Venmo so I could fill his apron with money. It's Pride Month. Every month should be Pride Month, but just do better.
A Maine-based TikTok star raised over $10,000 for the LGBTQ plus community in honor of a gay waiter who was discriminated against by people he was serving at a restaurant. The waiter, who was chosen to remain anonymous, received a religious pamphlet in place of a tip from 2 different customers on the very same day. When word of the incident reached TikToker Meredith Steele, whose friend works with the waiter, Steele appealed to her almost 500,000 followers to Venmo her money to give the waiter the tip he deserved. And they did. The donations poured in, some people giving just a few cents and others giving larger sums. Steele has not disclosed the amount of money she gave directly to the wronged waiter, but there was enough that she was able to also give $10,500 to LGBTQ plus advocacy organization Equality Maine. That's just, I mean, it's a great ending to that story, and especially for Equality Maine.
Yeah, it's a great manifestation of social media. This is really where you can motivate and empower and get results right away. I mean, those people in that pamphlet, yeah.
I know.
You know, it's interesting because in the past, before social media, you could tell your friends and family about a really mean, you know, something mean that someone did, and it doesn't really go far. But now with social media, it just, you know, it's a ripple effect of change. And
yeah, and
just,
now
you know,
$20,000 is donated, and half of that to Equality Maine. That's amazing.
It is.
It's good news.
I remember when I was working retail, I wasn't in a job where I would get tipped, but I would frequently be handed religious pamphlets by folks. And I just think it's or they would come, I worked for a bookstore, and they would just come in and put pamphlets inside books. And I think it's a very passive-aggressive way to kind of spread.
It's like a badge of Jehovah's Witness. Like, why don't you just give it to me?
Yeah, like talk about it out front. But good for them for raising all that money.
Now we queer up karma. Rainbow Stadium controversy ends in Hungarian soccer team being sent home. This week on Queer News Tonight, we reported on the mayor of Munich requesting the Alliance Arena be lit in rainbow colors for Germany versus Hungary soccer match in response to Hungary's recent anti-LGBTQ+ laws. The request was denied by the UEFA governing board as being political. The German people took matters into their own hands as other arenas across the country illuminated themselves in the rainbow. Activists handed out over 11,000 rainbow flags to people attending the match, and one supporter even stormed the field with a rainbow flag before being tackled by security. In what seemed the ultimate twist of karma, the pro-LGBTQ+ Germans and the anti-LGBTQ+ Hungarians ended the match in a draw, which led to the Hungarians being sent home from the rest of the championship due to point differences in earlier matches. This is a really interesting story, and I think what's going on within the EU pretty much played out on that soccer field.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of the laws, the legislation, I mean, you have Germany leading in many cases with legislation, and then you have Hungary recently passing the anti-propaganda laws, much like Russia.
Yeah.
And look what's happening in Poland and the sanctions that have followed. And
the Ukraine as well. But I think we have to also caution that, you know, Orban and his regime in Hungary have really quieted dissent to such a effect that many of those footballers and people in Hungary are very pro-LGBTQ. It's an EU member state. There's a lot of people who are progressive, but they cannot make that dissent public as they used to.
And it's also fascinating to me that 70 years after Germany imprisoned gay men, threw them into the concentration camps, that Germany is now actually leading the way in the European Union in terms of being progressive towards gay rights. I think that's
What a turnaround.
It's an unbelievable.
I wanted to do the not Monty Python, the John Cleese Faulty Towers. Don't talk about the war.
do you think, and why do you think that is? What was the learning curve for Germany?
You know, years ago, I wrote about a film about the gay people who were put into the camps, and I interviewed one of the remaining survivors, and he died several years later. But in talking to younger Germans, they told me that as they were growing up, that there was very little education about how gay people were actually put into the camps. But that one day he said that he was in Berlin and he saw a plaque that the government had put up in honor and in memory of the gay people who were put in and imprisoned. And that was for him a learning point that had not been taught in schools or anyplace else. But since then, of course, and perhaps because of social media, because of the fact that we talk about this today, that now in Germany, they're fully aware that among the millions of people who were put into the camps were many, many thousands and thousands of gay men.
Exactly. And we see echoes of that even today with not being able to teach critical race theory and things like that in some schools in the US. We're only going to be doomed to repeat our mistakes if we don't learn.
Look, it happened years later in Cuba, where the gay men were also segregated many, many years later. And that's not talked about very much today either.
Well, where there's discrimination somewhere, there's discrimination everywhere, and certainly Germany in their history knows about that. And I think that's why, as we've been saying, that's why they are the progressive part.
Well, speaking of fighting discrimination, let's queer up the road to Stonewall. Straight white politician says pride is unfair to straight white men and says he's being, quote, crucified. Check it out.
Thank you for honoring Pride Month. It means a lot. And as a rural queer person, it really means a lot to hear the support of our communities. So thank you.
All right. Well, Council President Drabkin, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of your group there and all the best. So thank you. All right. Let's move on our agenda now to the city manager's report. Mike, did you have a question?
Yeah, is this something that we vote on?
I don't know. Is this typically a proclamation?
I didn't know we could do a proclamation without voting on it. How would we do that?
I'll defer to city attorney on that, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can choose to have proclamations on the agenda, typically when it comes to a vote, it has to be through one of the three kind of council actions, right? Be it administrative, legislative, or judicial. And so the proclamation isn't it's not an ordinance, it's not a resolution or an order. So proclamations don't require a vote.
Okay, well, I just want to go on record that I'm against this. I'll treat people with respect, but I'm not going to raise one group over another group of people. I think that's discriminatory. So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, because I think we'll leave it at that. I will attempt to get into a discussion about discrimination, and that's probably not where we want to go with this. So, all right, we good to move on to the city manager's report? No, I can't leave it. I can't leave it. Sorry. I'm sorry. And this may be out of turn, and I apologize. But there are groups in our community, in all communities, that have been significantly mistreated over their lifetimes. And I think that goes to a lot, whether it's sexual orientation, whether it is race, whether it is creed, whether it is religion. It has happened throughout our history. Anyone who denies that, I am sorry. I cannot sit idly by. So I'm sorry, Mike. That's my opinion. You heard some of my opinion this afternoon, so there it is.
So, Councilman Mike McBride and human Mr. Potato Head is a newly elected city council member from Newberg, Oregon. He's also a major homophobe with a fragile ego, as you can tell, and, well, quite a bit of a drama queen. Earlier this month, McBride threw a temper tantrum during a city council meeting when he refused to support the city's proclamation acknowledging Pride Month, after a local queer business owner thanked the council for recognizing LGBTQ+ members of the community. McBride interrupted to say he thinks Pride Month is, quote, discriminatory. In the meeting, he proclaimed, quote, I just want to go on record to say that I'm against this. I'll treat people with respect, but I'm not going to raise one group of people over another group of people. I think that's discriminatory, end quote.
Thank goodness his hatred is on record.
Thank
now
goodness.
We all know.
So excited. Good for him. Maybe let's give him some ears and a heart next time. So
and I think, thank goodness for the mayor who spoke up.
Yeah.
And didn't at first appear to want to say something, but then he said, yes, you know, I'm maybe out of turn, and then he spoke.
Yeah, I'm glad. We need allies like that.
And hearing someone like that speak out is obviously as effective, if not more effective, than to hear, you know, people within the affected class, you know, say this is wrong.
Yeah, use your power for good, right?
Well,
I mean, we should also be allies for him and tell him to shave, but that's against that's his own choice.
Yeah, no, I was actually disappointed to see that the mayor was going to let it go, and then I was relieved when he's like, okay, no, I can't let it go. But it's incredible that, you know, here are these people that have, you know, every privilege allotted to them, you know, saying that they're not going to elevate any other community when, you know, they clearly don't need anything on their own.
Well, and it's just a proclamation is not an elevation; it's a recognition.
Sure. That's absolutely true.
So no one deserves to not be recognized. I mean,
and for a guy like that, every day is Pride Day. I mean, it's like
especially in Newberg, Oregon.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, so it's just like, you know, you don't get a proclamation, you know, when every day is Pride
for the default.
It seems like what the common theme here is, whether it's someone who's not wanting to lift up LGBTQ people, people of color, is that they feel like they're going to lose something.
Yep.
Yes,
you know, it's this fear. And I know that, you know, I'm not the first one saying that. This is what we're learning about this narrative. And so I don't know if there's some way to maybe come across to let them know that, you know, you're not going to lose anything if you lift up other people that have been historically disenfranchised.
It's not a zero-sum game.
No, and that exactly is what the strategy has shifted to become, in which, you know, people who are against us have turned themselves into the victims, that they are, you know, losing something if gay people get something. And, you know, but that's a newfound strategy as they lost, you know, in the courts and in other places.
No, all they're losing is the right to hate. But we're going to continue because we're going to keep queering stuff up here at Queer News Tonight.
I'm going to queer up the USA. Nearly 1 in 4 Gen Z Mormons are LGBTQ+. In the largest study of Mormons ever conducted in the United States, nearly a quarter of Gen Z respondents said they identify as something other than heterosexual. A full 23% said they were lesbian, gay, bisexual, or other. On Tuesday, the Next Mormons author, Dan Rios, analyzed an extensive data set from the National Public Opinion Survey, Nationscape, for the faith-focused publication Religious News Service. Nationscape's data included input from 3,881 self-identified members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as the faith is formally known. Rios writes that this makes it one of the largest studies of Mormons ever conducted in the U.S.
I love that we keep reporting on these statistics here at Queer News, because obviously our previous government didn't want to report on them through the census. So these independent agencies are going out there and they're giving us the visibility that we should have.
I mean, it just goes to show that, you know, as people become more comfortable, as society progresses, like there are more and more avenues for people who previously were unable to come out to be able to do that. And I think that's great.
Right.
You know, I stopped going to Mormon church for the same reason. And, you know, I would not be included in this study because I no longer identify that way. But I think that you have to use that as some sort of like yardstick, right? Like a lot of people who would normally be queer and Mormon are no longer identifying as Mormon, so they're not going to be in the study. So, you know, we have to keep that in mind as well.
What's interesting is when you think about those statistics, I mean, what will that do in the future for organized religion, whether it's the Mormon religion, Catholicism, just anything that, you know, has historically been anti-LGBTQ plus.
But there are so many denominations and organizations that have become very embracing of LGBTQ plus people, right?
Yeah.
The Methodist Church, the Presbyterian Church, other denominations have done a complete 180 from what they were 50 years ago. And that shows you that you can change.
And right here where we're broadcasting from, right? Sunshine Cathedral is a beacon of acceptance and inclusion in terms of religion here in South Florida. So I think
they're not mutually exclusive, and I think once you realize that, it's a lot easier to be both a person of faith and LGBT.
It's also very interesting that Gallup recently did a study and survey in which they 15% of Gen Z respondents identified as LGBTQ, and 23% of the Mormons who took this survey identified. So it's actually, you know, 8 points higher than the average, which I find quite interesting.
True. I'd love to get into the statistics of that.
I know, there's the researchers in us going, I want to see the details. I want to see the details. Next, we're going to queer up trans rights. Why won't anyone fight America's first trans pro boxer? Since becoming the first transgender man to box professionally in the United States in 2018, Patricio Cacahuate Manuel has got to, did I do that okay?
You did great.
Thank you. Has yet to return to the ring. Manuel recently opened up about that struggle and about his rise in the sport in an in-depth ESPN profile in which he vowed to fight again. In December 2018, Manuel won his professional debut, a 12-minute bout with super featherweight Hugo Aguilar. The memorable slugfest would prove to be his last for 2.5 years and counting. Although USA Boxing has permitted him to compete at the professional level, opponents can still decline to spar with anyone they choose based on personal bias. As ESPN noted, Manuel has struggled to find potential competitors who are willing to fight him after they learn that he's a trans man.
Sounds like they're scared to me.
Right?
Well, I certainly would be. I wouldn't box anyone. So
if you're not a professional boxer, you'd be going hungry.
I'll scratch them.
But, you know, it just seems to me that this is just, I mean, pure hate. I mean, this, you know, there are no excuses here where, you know, in Florida, when they, you know, banned trans kids from participating in sports, they claimed that, well, you know, a trans boy would have, you know, a physical advantage over, you know, over the other, you know, girls, that, you know, it just, it didn't make sense. I mean, the trans girls, that was they said the trans girls would have a physical advantage over cis girls. But this is something different, because this is a trans man who would have no real physical advantage over any of his opponents.
Well, in the fact that he's been recognized by the professional body as a boxer, he has the right to box with anyone.
Also, did you see that guy? I mean, he definitely has physical advantage over most of the guys I know. So, like, I think that they just
But
don't
not most of the
want to get beat.
boxers, you know.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Okay, let's move on then.
Well, let's queer up travel. Amazing Race winners Will and James share dream trip to Hawaii. Hawaii is always an iconic vacation destination, and for Will Jardell and James Wallington, fiancés and recent winners of the Amazing Race, it was an obvious destination for their first post-pandemic vacation. They started in Oahu at the Lelo Waikiki, where they enjoyed amenities such as the pool, hula dancing, and watching surf competitions. They visited the beautiful 400-acre Hoho Maluia Botanical Gardens and swam in the crystal clear blue waters of Lanikai Beach. Make sure to check out the pictures of this dream vacation so you can plan your own on Instagram. It's at It's Will and James.
Well,
What do you think?
I just want to say that I know that they're engaged, so they've probably been together for a while. And in gay relationships for gay men, if they're interested in a throuple, I'm more than happy to put my services forward.
Oh, you'll put all the services forward. I don't know. I mean, they may have won the Amazing Race, but that does not give them license to have a joint Instagram account. It's just, it's abhorrent.
What's great is actually when I was on a phone call today with them both. So it was very, yeah.
Oh, name drop.
Just not the drop. And I'm happy to report that they're actually going to be in Miami next.
Breaking news here on Queer News Tonight.
Breaking.
That's the news.
So that is also an obvious
When will they be
choice for
here?
them. They will be arriving the 1st of July.
And
Yeah.
To Ty's apartment, apparently.
they found the ad.
I'm happy to pick them up.
Found the ad.
I'm happy to pick them up.
Okay, that is our queer headlines for today. So let's catch up on the LGBTQ plus news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies.
Queer News Tonight has been LGBTQ plus America's most important news source on the pandemic, as we have reported on coronavirus on every news broadcast since January 6, 2020.
Tonight, we report the devastating effect coronavirus has had on the American and worldwide LGBTQ plus community in total cases and in deaths.
But we also provide hope and new light at the end of this long tunnel. First, we report that as of tonight, more than 2,411,000 LGBTQ plus Americans have contracted COVID-19.
We have watched the greatest single year LGBTQ plus health crisis of our lifetimes. More than 43,000 LGBTQ plus Americans have died from coronavirus.
But the news is improving because as of today, more than 319 million vaccination doses have been administered in the U.S.
And that's our COVID-19 news for tonight. Next, we report that Happening Out Television is passionate about our support for the LGBTQ plus community.
An example is Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at the Sunshine in support of that partnership.
The network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ plus religious broadcast in the world, with more than 30,000 watching every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's totally live.
We encourage you to tune in. Our campaign of sponsorship proudly supports Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Watch this.
Hi, I'm Dean Trantalis, the mayor of the city of Fort Lauderdale. They say the gayest place on planet Earth, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Finally, we thank Queer News Tonight's hotel sponsor, Best Western I-95 Fort Lauderdale. This is the closest and best choice to the famous Wilton Drive, and our hosts and guests stay at this LGBTQ+ allied partner. We encourage you to stay here when visiting in South Florida.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family.
Post this broadcast in the many groups of which I am sure you are a part. Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your friends and family.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television news in the world that's out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Dr. Tai Houser, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Steve Rothaus, Lynare Robbins, Dr. Nick Metheny, and Dan Rios, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. Good night.